Now, Swinney's also penned an article in the National to tell us that there's no shortcuts to Indy, only a democratic pressure will prevail. Well, he's right on that bit. He is right on that bit. You know, on that bit, John's correct. But if he thinks that people will return the SNP to government repeatedly on the promise that they'll give this time its democracy, then John's sadly mistaken. He's wrong. You know, you've got to lay down a marker, and the party's just done that. Now, John goes on to state in his article in the National that a vote for the SNP as a vote for independence is still what's going to be in the manifesto. It doesn't matter if it's in the manifesto if you're not going to give it any meaning. Article 1, page 1, a vote for SNP is a vote for independence is meaningless unless it's got force behind it. That's why you've got to lay down a marker. The marker was supposed to be this election, majority SNP MPs, and the next Scottish election will be a plebiscite election. Now, what John says in this letter is that every democratic event will be a vote for independence and that democracy will prevail. It won't if you don't lay down a marker. If you keep doing the same thing time and time again and accept being told no, then that's exactly what's going to continue to happen. If you do not lay down a marker and say enough is enough, then democratic pressure is not there. It just is not there. When you seek to be told no all the time, it becomes the norm. And then when you ask a question, it becomes like a joke. There comes a point where you've got to put down a marker. That's what was debated in the SNP conference last year. That's what was decided was the route forward. If John wants to change that, he better get his arse into conference and convince enough people that we should lift that marker and accept being told no time and time again. Democracy only has pressure if the democratic rights are upheld. Now, John is right in his article when he says the party has to abide by the law. But the Supreme Court told them the out. Yes, Westminster controls whether you get a Section 30 order or not. Westminster does not control the ballot box. There is power at the ballot box, but there's only power at the ballot box if you lay down a marker. I've said this before, and I've said it repeatedly because I know history. Every movement has its moment. This movement's moment is passing if John lifts that marker. In 30 years' time, it'll be an alpha party and a devolved administration going through the same shit. Because that's where we'll be. If John wants to take that marker away, he better come to the party and convince us it's the right thing to do, because I don't think it is. We're also hearing that some in the SNP may want to delay asking the question again until we have a consistent 60% in the polls. Now, if we take Believe in Scotland's polls, it's at 56%. If you take the average poll, it's within the margin of error at 50-50 either way. That means in a decade, we'll put on 5% support. If the polls have to constantly show 60% support, we're looking at 2 more decades if we're only putting on 5% support a decade. And I was talking to Seamus Logan yesterday, who is running for the candidate as the Westminster candidate for the SNP in Aberdeenshire North and Moray East. Smashing fella. If you're up there, vote for him. Get the Tories out. It's a straight fight between the SNP and Tory up there. He was pointing out there's a tipping point. Well, if Believe in Scotland's got us constantly between 54 and 56%, where's the tipping point? When does it start to rush? We know that Believe in Scotland's polling methods are up to date and they're using modern demographics, which is counting the 16 and 17-year-olds in. That still only got us to 56. So we're talking about another decade. I don't think the SNP are getting this. This movement's coming to its peak. Something has to give. And if we're to give up the defined route map that we'll put in place, then it's up in the air. Ipsos Mori 10-year tracker has a yes at 54%. So it's one above the margin of error. Basically, it could be 51 if we take in the margin of error. Now, Westminster's at its weakest, the weakest it's ever been. It's at this point the SNP should be hammering home the point to the people of Scotland. It's no hard to point out the ineptitude of both parties doing that road. It isn't. Pick any year in the last 30 years, you can pick out a disaster for both of them. And the economic decline under both of them. Dropping living standards. Failing public services. John did say in his letter that independence is more important than ever because of the failing UK economic model. So quite a bit of a mixed message in his thing. Saying that we're going to go with page one, a vote for the SNP is a vote for independence. Very good. Great. What are you going to do with that manifesto once you win? What are you going to do with it, John? Are you going to carry on with the assert that the 2026 election will be a de facto referendum? A de facto referendum, sorry, a plebiscite election. This is what we need to hear, folks. We need to hear. Because if John plans to change things, he's going to have to ask us at conference to change things. And I ain't doing that. I'll vote him down. And I'll work bloody hard to make sure everybody else votes him down. They watered down the proposal last year. There's no watering it down again this year. Every movement has its moment. This one's had a few and missed them. They are only going to keep coming alive. A change in direction now is not the right thing to do. Poverty then tells us the Scottish people need new leadership. To which John starts laughing along with the rest of the party and he says, "Good news, Anas, I'm here. And I'll be here to win the 2026 election too." Question is, will that election be a plebiscite election, John? Because that's the question we all want answered. And it is a question I will be asking. But as I say, we are at a very, very important crossroads and where this movement goes and if this movement breaks up or not. John's got a lot of questions to answer. No doubt he'll be asked them. But what I can assure you people is that if he wants to change the roadmap that we've laid out, where the 2026 election is a plebiscite election, de facto referendum, call it what you want. If we win the majority of MPs, because they've all signed on to a Section 30 order, If he wants to change that, he's going to have to bring it before the floor of the conference. And I'll be campaigning hard to bring it down. To say every movement has its moment. Every movement has its moment. This movement's moment. There have been a few, but this is the last one in this movement. If we don't get the majority of MPs and move on to that plebiscite, a Scottish general election, and call it for there, if we don't move on for this general election with majority of MPs to a plebiscite election in 2026, this movement's finished. It's a case of back to square one and build again. So I hope John is listening, because John's got questions to answer, and he will have to answer them on the floor of conference. And if he's thinking about changing the route map that was laid out at conference last year on the way forward to independence, then John's going to have to come to conference and convince the party. And I don't see John being able to do that. I don't. I can understand why he's trying to play nicey in the Parliament. Minority governments are always in a dangerous place. It only takes a call of no confidence to get the support of all other parties. And you have a general election. Or they get in a coalition and select a First Minister. So as I say, I'm not going to bullshit you folks. I'm not going to bullshit you. I called it right when I spoke about cracks in the movement. And I'm telling you right now, I'm calling it right now. If John changes the plan on the route forward, then we're looking at another 3 or 4 decades, kids. I won't be around to see it. But he was also talking about he'll be bringing forward policies. I've got another news flash for John. No, you fucking won't. John's job is to implement the manifesto he was elected on in 2021. And where cuts have meant that some of that manifesto can't be fulfilled, that's generally how these things work. You're honest with the public and you adjust your plans. You do not introduce policy on the hoof, Mr. Swinney. That's not how our democratic system works. We didn't vote for a leader of a party, we voted for a party on a manifesto. That manifesto is to be enacted over a 5-year parliamentary term. That's how it works, Mr. Swinney. So go on with implementing that manifesto. Go on with being a decent administrator. Show the people of Scotland that you can govern. And stick to pledges made at conferences. Or go to the conference and ask for the people in the party to change approach. You're not doing it. And we're certainly not giving up our democratic method of elections because we got to change a party leader. I didn't vote for a party leader. I voted for a manifesto to be implemented to the best of their abilities over a 5-year period. Whenever we vote for a political party, we understand that they're probably not going to be able to fulfil the majority of all of their manifesto. But we do expect them to get the big ticket things in place, and they have. They're rolling out free school meals, they've upped the child uplift, another big one. Rolling out free extended nursery care. So they are implementing the manifesto. That's what I want to continue. A policy on the hoof. So if John's got any big ideas on changing direction, on anything, you better A, go to the people with a fresh manifesto. And on the route to independence, if you want to change that, you better come to the conference and ask for our fucking permission. Simple as that. As I say, I'm a Democrat. Always have been. But I believe in the structures and the democracy within the party. We put together a manifesto in 2021. We put it before the people. The people elected us. We implement that manifesto no matter who the leader is. Last year at conference, we decided the route forward to independence. John wants to change it. Conference is the place. He needs to convince the members to change tack. Good luck with that, John. Good luck with that. Right, let's move on down that road, shall we? It's an important time in the movement, folks. And it will take pressure from people within the SNP to keep John on the right track. It will take pressure from the wider movement to keep John on track. I intend to ensure that he stays on track.